Thank you for joining I Am Possible, which is India's first future tech meets sustainability podcast. Today, I'm delighted and honored to have with me Dr. Julia Luc, who is an engineer and computer scientist specialized in artificial intelligence. He began his career in 1994 at SRI International, where he created the Computer Human Interaction Center. He participated in the launch of Nuance Communications, which is the world leader in speech recognition today. He later joined Apple in 2011 and led the development teams of Siri and is recognized as the co-creator of Siri. He has been the Chief Technologist at HP, Senior Vice President and Chief Technology Officer of Samsung Electronics, and has authored the book Artificial Intelligence Does Not Exist. Dr. Julia has also been awarded the Legion of Honor, which is the highest French order of merit by the Secretary of State for the Digital Economy, in recognition of his work that has influenced the fields of artificial intelligence, human-computer interaction, digital media, and other advanced technologies. To Dr. Julia, really appreciate you taking time and being part of our humble podcast. Thank you for doing that. Why don't we start with Siri, because you've been credited as the co-creator of Siri, which I believe was one of the world's first virtual assistants. So maybe you could start with the challenges of building Siri and how did that idea originate?
So, Siri actually wasn't built in 2011, right? It was released by Apple in 2011, but we started the work back in the 90s. The very first patent came out in 1997, I believe. So it was a long time ago. 14 years before it was actually, being exposed to the public, right? So the idea at the time was pretty simple. We saw that the internet was coming up, right? And the internet was this big thing, complicated, with a lot of data everywhere. And we had the feeling that we were going to need some kind of assistant, right? And so it started with the simple idea. It was before Google, right? Google came up in 98, 99. So before that, we were thinking maybe we could ask, with simple word, with natural language, we could ask someone to help us to navigate this big database that is being built, that is the internet. And so this is really the way it came up. First we had this the very first instance of Siri was basically this very old guy, that was going to help us to navigate the web. And why was it this old guy? Because he was a little bit deaf, right? So he didn't hear very well. He didn't understand very well what we were saying, because speech recognition didn't work very well. So the idea was really to have this guy still, helping us, even though he wasn't, in his best abilities, I would say. And over the course, of the next almost 15 years, obviously speech recognition, became better and better. And Steve Jobs, back, in 2009, 2010, realized that the iPhone that was released in 2007 would be a very good place to have this kind of assistant, right? A phone makes sense because it has a microphone, obviously. And so having something kind of personal, on this device that is very much yours, made a lot of sense to have this assistant residing, in this device. And so this is the way basically Siri migrated from this, assistant in the cloud, basically, to the assistant in the phone, and became, this assistant, the very first assistant actually, that had a lot of success. The first year of the release, right, between 2011 and 2012, there were already 300 million users. Right, so it was a big success. But frankly, the success came more from the fact that people were having fun with Siri than people having, Siri being useful to them, right? So it means that they were using Siri in order to get, some answers to some jokes and to stuff like that, more than actual useful stuff. But I mean, still, it was 300 million users the first year, and today I think that we broke now the 500 million users, all over the planet.
These typewriters in computers, there was a time when we used to write, but now it's getting redundant. Writing has become an art. I have conversations with my wife, and she always grumbles on my son's handwriting. He's 7 years old, and then I hear the same stories. How do you think this is going to impact the future of communication? And you said 1997, from 1997 to 2022. Obviously, the speech recognition, the natural language processing, natural language understanding is completely matured. I mean, I wouldn't say completely matured, but it's evolved in ways where it's doing magical things, like from BERT to your GPT-3. There's some insane growth happening. What are your views on, you said from the Siri transitioned from being on the cloud to, sitting on your phone with technologies such as virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality, where from carrying technology, because now we carry a phone, we'll be moving on to wearing technology. And when we are wearing technology, how does the virtual assistant, what role does the virtual assistant play over there?
Yeah. So I mean, it's a lot of questions, right, in your sentences there. So first of all, I mean, today, I mean, all the assistants are still very much in the cloud, even though they look like that they reside, in your devices. They still are in the cloud because the amount of processing that is necessary to achieve the performances that you are talking about, I mean, it's still way too much for the devices that are, in our pockets. So today it's still a cloud-based system, and also, I mean, speech recognition itself is, as you mentioned as well, in two big pieces. So the actual recognition of the words, and then the recognition of the meanings, which we call, NLP, natural language processing. And the recognition of the words, it's actually pretty good. So it's actually better than us humans, right? So it means that those systems, are now recognizing the speech at something like 98, 99%, rate, which is better than humans. I mean, us humans, because of our accents, because of of other things, I mean, we miss some of those words. So machines are better than us for that. But the other part, which is natural language processing, this part, finding the meanings, it's a much more difficult thing. And so even though we recognize, I mean, those machines recognize the words much better, they do not recognize the meanings very well. And so there is still a gap there between us humans and those machines. Because, I mean, there is a reason for that. Because actually us humans, we have, some other clues, some other cues that are coming, from our gestures, from the context, from a lot of different things, that those machines do not have yet, because we do not give them what we have, which is the multimodal processing, right? The fact that we have, in addition, the other senses like, vision and feeling, and I mean, all those other things that are giving us more cues, towards the interpretation of the voice. But that said, now, as you said as well, we are going to see more and more those things, being in our pockets, being more, I mean, better and better every day. So for sure, we are going to see that. And I mean, if it's working well, I mean, if people are actually wanting to use those machines, it's because speech is our natural, way to communicate, and this is easy. This is something that most likely in the least amount of time we can, get the most information, the biggest amount of information, right? So speech is very interesting for that. I mean, that's why all the things around audio is still very, very well alive, right? That's why podcasts are very popular. That's why, radio is still there, because audio is definitely something that is very easy for humans to process and to basically communicate with. So we are going to see more and more audio. There is no way it's going to disappear anytime. And so in the next generation of the interfaces, right? And we are talking about Web 3.0, we are talking about Metaverse, we are going to talk about all those things. Of course, audio is going to be very, very important. Yes, there will be avatars, there will be, things that are going to be some kind of visual cues, in those environments. But audio is still going to be the most important thing, that is going to allow us to communicate in those environments.
You mentioned that machines are now at least better in a certain segment, like natural language processing. They are better than humans in some ways. Then machines are also better than humans in computer vision, because we can only process so much of visual information, but computer vision at this point in time has really accelerated. Yes, it's got its drawbacks. It doesn't understand meaning, it does not understand reasoning like how we humans have. We have multimodal processing systems. So when do you see these virtual assistants transitioning to intelligent assistants, which can not just understand but reason and mimic a human conversation?
Never. So, really, this is, I think, something that is going to be very unique still to humans. And this is why, I wrote this book that is called, There is no such thing as artificial intelligence, because I don't think that artificial intelligence will ever reach, our intelligence. Because again, when you see what those processors are doing, it has nothing to do with intelligence. I don't actually know exactly what intelligence is. This is one of the issues. So I cannot match really those machines with that, because I don't know what it is. But I just know that we are, us humans, we are very special in the sense that we can process anything and we can have opinions, on anything. And so when we are building those assistants, they are usually very specialized. You were talking about computer vision. It's very interesting to see, as you very well said, that those machines are going to be able to detect cancers in medical imagery much better than we do, much better than the best ever radiologist is going to be able to do it, just because they are going to detect those very signals that are just imperceptible, to the humans, right? And because the machines we are giving them today, we are talking also about GPT-3. When you think about GPT-3, it's 150 billion parameters. This is something that is just, not human, basically, right? And so the best ever radiologist in the world, maybe so what, 100,000, 200,000 radios? I don't know if it's even that many, right? And what do we give to our machines in order to process, in order to create the models that are going to allow, those machines to find those cancers, in those images? We give them millions of images, right? We give them millions and millions of them. So it's not at all the same process, but those machines, they are going to be so specialized in this thing that, they are not going to be able to do anything else. My little radiologist, that only saw 200,000 images, is going to be able to talk. He's going to be able to talk about something else than, cancer and radios. So what I'm saying here is that, we are giving the machines the power to go very, very, very deep in very specific, areas, but they won't be able to be, to have the broad knowledge that we have. And because this broad knowledge is, again, coming, from those multimodal signals that we are able to interpret to interpret, and that are coming from, actually, I don't know exactly where, I don't know, I don't understand where it's coming from. So, and there are some things also that are very difficult for us to model. So it means that, there are a lot of things that, I can describe in mathematics. So it's very nice, it's going to be very square, very, very easy to describe in mathematics. But there are some things that I cannot describe in mathematics. What is empathy? I don't know. I mean, how can I describe empathy? How am I going to model empathy, right? I have no idea. So now, I can set some rules maybe, if you see someone who is kind of old, on the floor, then, you should help this person, right? Is it empathy? Maybe. Is it the only sign of empathy? I don't know. So, and those things, that are not tangible, basically. I mean, this is those things that are going to describe us humans the most, in the sense that we are going to have some reactions sometimes that are going to be kind of natural, but we don't know exactly why we are reacting like that. And this is the kind of thing that those artificial intelligences that we are talking about, I mean, they need to have, learned the things before. If they didn't see them before, they're not going to be able to do anything about it. Us, if we didn't see something, we are going to invent. And this is, what is missing in those artificial intelligences. They do not invent.
I think that was extremely profound what you said. There is something which is extremely, extremely unique, which comes to, humans, right? From empathy to happiness to, I mean, you said, I mean, we can't describe intelligence, and then after intelligence comes consciousness, I mean, which we don't have the slightest clue of. And to modeling this, obviously, I mean, we don't have the slightest clue, but there are some really great minds, like from Ben Goertzel to Jan LeCun to Richard Certain and so many others, I mean, going for that far out goal of creating general intelligence, intelligence which we human possess. Is that always going to be a dream, or is there a way to get to that? Because we humans also, I mean, it's said that kids, when they are born, they are not conscious. And maybe consciousness or intelligence is a emergent phenomena after we kind of experience and perceive life. Then there is a certain group of people who are working on neuroscience and understanding a cognitive structure, and maybe modeling that or reverse engineering a brain to kind of figure out what intelligence is, to possibly create intelligent machine. Are those ways to possibly get to an intelligent machine, or like you said, never?
So I said never because But that said, I mean, there are some people, you talked about Jan LeCun. I mean, Jan LeCun, for instance, I think that he pretty much would say the same thing as I said, right? But he's going to say that maybe there is a way, and maybe there is something that is going to, if we add learning and learning and learning, we are going to achieve, this intelligence. So this is the difference maybe between LeCun and myself. But I mean, this is something that has been talked about by philosophers for the past 500 years, right? I mean, what is the amount that is being learned, and what is the amount that is being inherited? I don't know. I actually don't know. And, between culture and between all those things, I mean, why in some parts of the globe, we have people that are reacting in a certain way, and they are going to react in another way in the other part of the globe. Is it coming from the culture? Is it coming from the evolution? I don't know. I just don't know that. But now, what you are saying is very, very interesting in terms of, just try to take the brain, and just try to reverse engineering it, right? So this is your words. So it's very interesting. But to do that, we need, first of all, to understand the brain. And today, the people who are studying the brain, definitely not me, right? So I don't know anything about the brain. But The people who are studying the brain, they are going to tell us that they understand that we understand between 20 and 40% of the brain today, right? So how can you reverse engineer something when you know only, not even half of it? So this is also something that is going to be very interesting. But that said, one day, maybe, when we will know a lot more about the brain, first of all, we will have to realize that if we want to reverse engineering it, we are going to have to use the methods that the brain is using. And the brain is not using mathematics. I mean, the brain is using physics, right? So the mathematics are coming out of our brain. The mathematics are not, building our brain, right? So our brain is built by biology, by physics, right? I mean, this is physics. So here, this is where it's going to be maybe interesting to say that, if we succeed one day to have some kind of general artificial intelligence, maybe it's going to be more based on physics than based on mathematics. Today, when we're talking about deep learning, machine learning, and I mean all those kind of AI that we're talking about, this is all mathematics. This is all statistics, right? There's a little bit of logic sometimes, but this is mainly statistics. So tomorrow, and we're talking more and more, about quantum computing and things like that, so that are getting us closer to physics, right? So maybe then we'll be able to match something that is going to match better our brains. But again, before doing that, we need to understand our brains.
Right, fair enough, completely. Would you like to talk about your book, There Is No Such Thing as Artificial Intelligence?
Yeah, I mean, very quickly, to talk about that. I mean, this is a provocative way, of course, to say that there won't be any general, artificial general intelligence, right? Because this is a dream by Hollywood, basically. This is the movie Her, this is Terminator, this is all those things. So those machines who are taking over because they become more intelligent than ourselves. What I'm saying in this book is basically that we won't succeed to go with the methods that I was talking about, the mathematical way. We won't be able to get towards, to achieve this goal of having this artificial general intelligence. But we are going to have a lot of artificial intelligences, right? So this is where we are going to have very specialized artificial intelligences. And this is why, I always say, at the end of the day, I mean, we shouldn't call that artificial intelligence, but we should call that, augmented intelligence. This is not the domain that is augmented intelligence. This is us. We are augmented by those tools because at the end of the day, artificial intelligence, if I had to give it, to put it in one big bag, it's a toolbox. It's a toolbox with a lot of tools that are very specialized, like real tools are, right? You are going to have the hammer, you are going to have the saw, you are going to have the screwdriver, and each of them, they are going to be very specialized in a very specific way. And by the definition of a tool, they are going to be better than you. The hammer is going to drive the nail much better than you would do with your fist, right? It's going to hurt less. And it's going to be much more efficient. So the hammer is a very good artificial intelligence, right? It's something that is augmenting us physically. And I like the hammer actually for another way, because the hammer, like all the tools, you can use it the right way, which is, to drive the nail in the wall, and you can use it the wrong way by, hitting yourself on the head. I mean, of course, this is not the way to use it, but we don't know. Maybe we don't know. Maybe we need to be educated. Maybe the society needs to be educated and to decide how to use the hammer, right? Because you know what? The good news about the hammer and the good news about all the tools is that we have the handle in our hands. We decide. Those tools, they don't decide by themselves. The hammer is not going to fly around, and decide to go to hit the head. I need to have a hand that is going to have the handle and that is going to decide what to do with the tool. And this is what it is with all those AIs. So the AIs, we have the ability to use them the way we want. We can do mistakes. We can, use them the wrong way, but the society need to be educated how to use them correctly. And then, we all together decide how to use them. But this is in our hands. This is not in the hands of Hollywood.
Yeah, completely. And I think that's so profound. You mentioned, because I think, whenever we have conversation of technology per se, or of frontier tech, future tech, the conversation goes into these technologies, is it going to be an existential threat? But we need to create that conversation that technology is never good or bad. It's the humans. I mean, if we educate society to leverage the technology for good, we're gonna completely evolve and see great benefits for mankind. So yes, I mean, this. Thank you for driving home the point that technology is not good or bad. It's the humans. The way we choose how to use technology will create the path, whether it's good or bad. India, as a country, it's a growing nation at this point in time. The economy is growing, and then we've got internet. Everybody's got internet because you've got a phone, we've got a computer in a pocket. Everybody's got access to knowledge, and there's some great things happening over here. But still, I think there's a lot could be better, because these technologies such as Metaverse, Web 3.0, artificial intelligence, it can create huge benefits for mankind. If you had to maybe, share your knowledge and advise the government, what would you say, or the government or the people of the country or the enterprise could or should do to create a better future, and what would be the applications of all of these tools?
So, I mean, I'm basically going to repeat what I just said, at the end of the previous sentence. It's education. I mean, we need to educate our people, basically, whoever we are. I mean, at the, at the enterprise level, at the government level, at the city level, at the family level. I mean, we need to educate ourselves. We need to understand, and we need to discuss, and we need basically to decide what are going to be the right legislation, the right decisions, the right laws, the right regulation for those things. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we need to regulate, and so, but you cannot regulate just to regulate. You need to have an educated, information in order to do this regulation, to come up with those regulations. So education is key. This is the very first thing that I would say. And then there is what the people together are going to want to do with this, those technologies. As you said before, I mean, we have the choice. And according to culture, according to a lot of things, we're not going to use the technology the same way, and we're not going to want to use it the same way. And that's fine. But we need to be sure that, everybody is being kind of brought into this movement, and so this is where democracy is important, and I mean, or to see, how people are going to have their voice, basically to make those decisions. I mean, that's not easy. I mean, we see that all over the world today. It's definitely not easy, but I think that even though it might be a little bit, of a hope that is kind of naive, I mean, I think that this is still something that we need to aim for, and so to make the choice collectively of the best use of those technologies. One of the things that we need, and maybe we'll talk about that, but one of the things that we need to realize is that those technologies, they are not free. In the sense that, I mean, you were talking about sustainability in the title, of your podcast. I mean, sustainability is a huge thing with technologies. I mean, people don't realize today that AI is actually, a pretty bad thing, for the world, for the planet. At the same time, it's a pretty good thing. And we come back to this, thing that is, it's a balanced statement, right? I mean, this is good and bad. But sometimes we use the technology for things that are ridiculous. So we need to be aware of what the impacts are. And so when we understand the impacts, we are going to have the ability to choose where to use the technology or not.
You mentioned that AI is not good for sustainability. Would you like to kind of address that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, today, I mean, as you know, this is all based on statistics, as we said, right? So this is all about big data, right? We are talking about the GPT-3 earlier. I mean, GPT-3 is a ridiculous amount of data, right? And those machines, I mean, you cannot have that in your backyard, right? I mean, this is huge number of computers, and those computers is basically huge data centers. And you know that today all AI models, they are being built on those data centers. Data centers are better than what they were 10 years and 15 years ago, but they are still not very, very good, right? You have thousands of machines being together, and hitting each other, and doing all those things that you need to basically cool them in order for them to process correctly. And just the cooling of those computers, it takes a huge amount of energy. So this centralized version, because you need to centralize in order to have something statistically relevant for AI, because you have big data, it means statistics, so it means big data. And so to have something relevant, you need to have those data all together at the same place. But this is kind of stupid, because maybe you don't need that much data. Maybe we could decentralize. Maybe we could do something on the edge. We are talking about edge computing more and more. So edge computing might be, the solution that is going to help the planet, because it's going to, push on the edge the compute, is going to push on the edge data, and maybe you don't have to have those data traveling, all over the world all the time and things like that. So there are a lot of things that can be optimized. And there are a lot of choices that have to be made. And when I was saying, that some of the technologies, some of the AIs, or some of the methods of AIs, we shouldn't use them. I mean, because you don't need them. I mean, this is the reality. So this is something that we need to understand. I mean, just to give you an idea, when you ask, what is bad? I mean, there are plenty of things that are bad. Actually, I just released a very new book a few weeks ago that is talking about, the impact of technology on our planet. And one that I like very much is a selfie. A selfie, is about, if you average everything, it's about 160 watt an hour. 160 watts. Okay, there are about 1 billion selfies taken every day. It's 160 billion watts every day. For what? Just, for our egos, just to show, what we ate at noon, just to show, that we were with this guy, that we were in front of the Eiffel Tower. I mean, we don't give a shit. I mean, stop it. I mean, stop to take selfies. It's going to save the planet.
Right, these small things, if we create awareness on how disruptive are these small things which we completely overlook. I think there is a larger need for education, educating people, not just the educated lot, but even the ones who are sitting in the places which are far off, rural areas, inaccessible, because yes, I mean, that's a huge problem. So yes, I think it starts with education. And you earlier mentioned, we need to build technology which is inclusive and which is equitable, and that's not happening. And you also mentioned that, maybe that these solutions for these data centers are possibly decentralized, or maybe edge computing. And yes, I think we are consciously making efforts and understanding that we have caused a lot of damage to the world. At least the Gen Z and millennials are very aware of the actions which has been done in the past, and they want to correct that. And I hope that we act as a collective, and not just create a world which is sustainable, but also see if we can correct the wrongs by creating a circular economy. Now, you are the Group Chief Scientist Officer at the Renault Group. I was on the site, and the site mentions that you will be leveraging human-machine interface and IoT to develop new and unique experience for Renault customers. Would you like to unpack that?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to say everything today, what is going to happen in the next 5 years. But I mean, for sure, there are a lot of things that we can do. I mean, again, it's all about optimization, right? So, I mean, AI, IoT, I mean, all those things are going to be very helpful in four big domains of the cars, right? The first one is going to be the conception of the cars. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to conceive the cars in the metaverse, maybe, right? To conceive the car that is going to be, in this world that looks so real that I don't need, to actually build models in real to see how they look, but it's going to be good enough, in the metaverse to understand what it is. Maybe, it's going to be good enough to do the crash tests in the metaverse, right? So I won't have to kill the cars, for real. Maybe the regulator will accept those crash tests, in the metaverse. So this is the conception phase. Then there is the building phase, in the factories. For years now, we have robots, that are there. They are, collecting a lot of data. We use 2.7% of the data today that are being collected, we collect them for nothing. This is yet another thing that we are wasting, and this is ridiculous. So let's use more of the data. Let's collect only what we need, and let's use it for real in order to optimize those machines. To have, we talk about a lot about predictive maintenance and stuff like that. Yes, that would be great. That would be great because we are not going to have the people coming when we know that the plant is going to be stopped. So stuff like that. Then, the third one would be, of course, the cars are going to be more and more autonomous. They are going to be more and more sensitive about their environment, right? So we are going to have, better, they are going to see better, way better than us. We said that before. They are going to react way better than us. This is what they do already today, with ABS and stuff like that. So, those cars are going to be basically much better than us at driving. Not all the time, but most of the time, right? There will be accidents. We cannot say that there will be never accidents. It will be a lie, right? But we can, have much less accidents, with autonomous driving, with autonomous cars level 4 that are going to come at one point. And then the last part is going to be inside the cockpit, right? We can improve the way people are going to maybe interact with each other, because now, there won't be a driver that is going to be all the time, driving and concentrated on the road. And maybe, it will be more a place where you're going to be able to work, a place that is going to look much more like your living room, but a moving living room, a window on the world, right? So, again, there it's maybe a metaverse, maybe it's augmented reality there that is going to be interesting. So there will be also some very interesting things that we're going to see inside the cockpit. So with those four things, there is a lot of potential AI, a lot of potential IoT, a lot of potential science and things to be invented, in the car itself.
This converging technologies is going to touch every sector, not just the automobile industry, because I think that there is not one single technology, everything is converging. AI is converging with IoT, IoT is converging with Metaverse, Metaverse is converging with 5G, blockchain, NFT, and when they all converge together, I think we having these real world use cases. I'm super excited about the future of mobility and where it's going, because there are people who talk, we, at least here in India, we just addressing the electric vehicles, but there are some superbly awesome startups who are set far out goals and working at solving the autonomous level 5 problem and going bold. So yes, there are some crazy innovations happening, and there are people here in India also working on eVTOLs, flying cars. So the future of mobility looks super exciting. You mentioned about the metaverse, and you mentioned about leveraging digital twins, or simulating these car crash and avoiding those this thing. So would you like to talk about metaverse or Web 3.0 and AI, and what are the applications you are most eagerly looking forward to?
So I can tell you what I'm not looking toward to. It's the metaverse by Meta. This one, the Facebook metaverse, I'm not looking towards to it at all. I don't give a crap about it. So I don't want even to think about it, right? So I don't think that the social network, the way Facebook, decided it, is going to be the right way to use it. I'm super excited about the metaverse. That is going to be a place where I'm going to be able, to optimize my life, maybe, to optimize the way things are going to be and to maybe test a little bit my life, right? So look at what I could have done or the way I could do it. So, I mean, it's a huge simulation world, but that looks a lot like the real one. So, I mean, I can test stuff. Right. So this is the way I think it's going to be super interesting. And also, when we talked and when we tried to think about the new way the Web 3.0 one is going to happen, I mean, it's going to be basically, a place where you're going to navigate, to go to the stores and stuff that is not, 2D front ends anymore, I mean, storefronts anymore that we see today, but it's going to be 3D experiences. And, you might not need the actual glasses, I mean, it can just maybe, show up as augmented reality around you. And you just are going to be able to navigate those worlds in a very natural way by using your natural, features, which are voice, gesture, and all that. And, it's just going to look like, an augmented life, basically, but in the right way. I mean, a way that you are going to be able to do stuff that you are not able to do before.
You have been part of groundbreaking companies. You have been part of groundbreaking products which has made human lives simpler. From Apple, from co-creating Siri, to being part of HP, Samsung, and now the Renault Group. So my last question would be, because you have decades of experience, would you like to paint a picture of the next decade? Trends or prediction, what this next decade is going to look like?
I mean, it's very difficult, to predict anything, but I just know that those technologies that we talked about, and you mentioned, that it's actually going to go in any domain, and it's going to go in every domain, right? So, and we are going to see a lot of progress, not only in transportation, but in medicine. In the medical domain, it's going to be so much affected by those new technologies. I mean, we were talking about medical imagery before, but think about the DNA. I mean, think about what we can do with DNA. DNA is a statistical field by itself. I mean, those methods that we are talking about, when we are talking about artificial intelligence, there are statistical methods that are going to help tremendously, the way we are going to discover way early the issues and to be able to fix them, and to propose new ways to do it. So the medical field, I mean, any field is going to be revolutionized by those technologies. And at the end of the day, my goal is not to live 150 years. I mean, this is not the goal. I just want to live, my little 100 years correctly, right? And not suffering through it. So, and I think this is what we are going to see. And having the cars helping, to pick you up when you are starting to be old, and not very mobile, and allowing you to still go where you have to go in real or in the metaverse. It's something that is going to be incredible.
Doctor, really appreciate you taking time being part of the podcast. Keep doing what you're doing. You have made the world better. We need more people such as yourself who are creating products and applications which is making life better. I'm looking forward towards that autonomous vehicles which will sort life for us, rather than waiting for your cab or your driver coming and picking you up. The autonomous vehicles, the Renault autonomous vehicle drives in and picks up. And you said something really cool, because I think, technology, with the DNA healthcare, there's going to be so many applications. I mean, I would like to highlight this to my audience that, we are in a quest of miniaturizing technologies. There was times where a computer was big as a room, a hard drive was big as a room, and today we have it in a pocket. And with quantum computing, we are breaking the boundaries or exploring what physics can do, going towards the nanotechnology and the tech applications that might arise from there is something I don't think we can even fathom right now. So thank you for being part of the podcast. And to my listeners, if you like what you see in here, then please press the subscribe button. Until next time, see you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you, doctor. Really appreciate this.
Thank you.